Good morning. How is everybody doing? I'll just give people a couple of minutes to find me. Hopefully I'll pop up any minute. Fingers crossed. You might need to keep refreshing the page just until I do. But hopefully I am live. It says live at the top, so just need to find my... there you go. Just need to find myself. How are you doing? If you're hopping on, please do say good morning. It's always nice to talk to you. How are you doing today? I've just so enjoyed seeing your robins coming in. The feed is completely full of robins, which is just lovely. How festive can you get? I've even got my Christmas earrings on today. My little Santa hat, so very excited to be here again this morning. Sunny Yorkshire, lovely Leslie, fantastic. It's actually sunny here today. You can probably see it coming in to the side of me, which makes a change. And I actually had to draw the blinds this morning so that we haven't got stripes all over the robin drawing. So lovely, we've got a little bit of sun. I know there's been a lot of storms this week everywhere, which isn't good. How are you doing this morning? How are you feeling? Excited to carry on with our robins. Hopefully people will find me today. There was a bit of confusion with an old video yesterday. I know a few people hopped onto one that I filmed back in January, I think, mastering coloured pencils. And I can completely see how easy that is to do, because what happens is if someone comments or likes or something, that video, it will jump straight up to the top of the feed, and then once one person's done it, of course it will be the first thing that you see, and then it kind of follows on through. So yeah, the way to tell that I'm live is I've usually got a big, it's not big, it's tiny actually, a little red box at the top of the screen saying live, and there's usually a number count next to it. But funnily enough, and the weird thing is, I was wearing the same dress. How weird is that? So that's just a mega coincidence. Weird, very, very strange. How are you all doing this morning as you're hopping on? Good morning, Mark. Lovely to see you, see your name anyway. Good morning, Yvonne. Lovely to see you. Dole, looking Devon. Oh, hopefully it will brighten up for you later. Heather, good morning, Heather. Sunny-ish. Yeah, definitely sunny-ish. Morning, Nicola. So excited. Oh, that's lovely. Lovely to see you all today. Oh, I think I've missed a comment. I'm just going to... Sometimes it just says relevant and you think, well, what do they class as relevant? Every comment is relevant. So just take a sip of tea while more people are joining us. Good morning, Liz. Oh, lovely to see you again. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. Good morning. Just seeing the comments coming in. Karina, good morning to you. Hello, Margaret. You're in the right place today. I was just saying about that... Margaret, I know a couple of you jumped onto a January video, but if anyone comments, then that one goes to the top, so I can completely see why that happened. What I don't know is why it was at the top to begin with. Facebook just is very, very strange. I don't know if someone did a search for workshop and then found that, but it was so weird. I was in the same outfit. How bizarre is that? Maybe I wear that dress a lot. Possibly. It's one of my favourites, definitely. How are you feeling about your robins today? Right place. Good morning, Anna. Morning to Malta. Good morning, Shirley. Lovely to see you. How are you doing? How are you feeling about your robins? Good morning, Julie. Hoping to see the comments today. Yeah, that's the other thing. No idea. With Facebook, it just does really strange things. Morning, Karen. Lovely to see you. How are you doing? Yeah, that's a shame if you can't comment. Again, I have no idea why, and I'm sure there's a new button on Facebook that means that people can join the video. I suppose that's if you did like I don't know, a joint interview or something. It's a good thing to have. But I noticed a couple of people were joining the video, so there must be a little button that you can press somewhere. Did a little bit more work on yours, Yvonne. How are you feeling about it? How are you doing with your robins? I am so impressed with the texture that you are achieving in the wings. Don't forget that when you're looking at your own work, And especially when you see other robins from other people popping up, you're going to be self-critical of yours. You're going to notice every little thing because you have put your heart and soul into that piece. Every pencil stroke is yours. And so we almost have this filter or this lens that we look through that makes it look different to us, I suppose. It's a bit like when you hear your own voice on a recording. It just sounds really odd. Sometimes when we look at something so intently, it can look a little bit wrong. You see other people, you think, oh, that's so much better than mine, but it's not. It's really, really not. So just try and take away that judgment from yourself and just really notice that these are amazing, amazing drawings. They're fantastic, especially because some of you have only just started. You haven't picked up pencils before. Amazing. I'm so impressed. What I'm hoping with this workshop is that I am going to show you sections of the robin that then enable you to finish this. If we were going to finish this robin, it would be like a 10-hour workshop. We know how slow coloured pencils are. They're notoriously slow, and actually that's a really good thing. I don't think we should try to rush them in any way. Like I was saying yesterday, the slower I go, the more I enjoy it. And this last year, I've really made a conscious effort to slow down and not to try and get things done and rush ahead and speed everything up. And I've enjoyed it so much more. So I'm hoping to show you all of the little different textures around this robin so that you can go ahead and complete your own. I can obviously show you the one that I've drawn before and we can refer to that. Even yesterday with that wing, I probably would spend another hour on it at least, just finishing it off, adding a bit more depth. What do you think about background for a picture when we finish the robin and berries? A lot of people ask about backgrounds, and that's usually because they possibly haven't done one before. The only thing I would say in coloured pencils, if you're going to add a background, it probably will take longer than the actual drawing itself, which is why a lot of artists don't do it, because it just takes so long. So a 10-hour drawing turns into a 20-hour drawing. That's not to say that, you know, don't do it. Of course, have a go, and there are some options for it. Some artists use pan pastels, which you can smudge. Some use watercolours behind. Coloured pencils work brilliantly over the top of watercolours. You can use Zest It to blend, which breaks down the pigment breaks down the binders and releases the pigment and spreads it out, a bit like paint. So it gives like a painterly finish. So definitely, by all means, have a go, and but just know that it takes a long time, which is another reason I haven't done a background at all. Oh dear, don't remind me of my voice. I'm recording me singing. Oh, I wish I could sing, Anna. I'm very, very jealous. I imagine it's beautiful. Don't put yourself down. I imagine it's absolutely fantastic. Good morning, Nisha, from a sunny Liverpool. Lovely. That's nice to see a little bit of winter sun. I so prefer these days when they're bright but a bit chilly. I don't mind that at all. So we're going to tackle the berries today and the holly, and then if we've got time, I think I might just have a look at the chest of the, no, maybe not the chest, maybe the body. I think the chest, you can go back to the first video on day 1 where we did the face, and it's just more of the same. So just remembering to look at your highlights, look at your shadows, and on the left hand side of the robin's body, just grab it here while I'm looking at it, this side next to the holly, it's a lot lighter, and then it kind of goes darker, and then under the chin where the robin would move its head, there's generally some shadow there. So more of the same there, so you can continue. I see that some people have already put their chests in. That's a funny sentence, which is fantastic. And some people have gone down into the rest of the body, because that's very similar to the top of the head, the greys and the browns, and the way that we cross hatch. So I might just have a little go if we've got enough time at the end. The tail feathers, exactly the same as the wings. They're just a little bit darker. So you can imagine that underneath here, which we didn't quite fill in, that's going to be darker because the other wing is shadowing it, and the tail is going to be a little bit darker too. We're going to have a little look at the branch as well. Fingers crossed we've got enough time, and the berries and the holly. So I think we'll get started. Do you have your greens and your reds available? Do you have them ready to go? And I think we'll get started. If there are any questions about yesterday, then please do type them into the comments. Is there anything that you particularly struggled with when you were doing the wings yesterday? They are notoriously difficult in the way that they are like a jigsaw puzzle. So by mapping them out with a light pencil, I hope that you didn't get too overwhelmed. I didn't see anyone saying that they felt a bit overwhelmed by them, which is good. I hope I made it as simple as I could, knowing that they are tricky. You know, they're not easy at all, but you are definitely able to do it, and just breaking it down into bite-sized, manageable chunks, so as not to overwhelm. When you look at the whole wing, you just think, I have no idea where to start. Look for the next easiest landmark, and for us that was, you know, penciling in the lines, the little yellow bits, the little yellow sections. They were good, a little good milestone to just see where we were, and that applies to most drawings as well. If you just find something that you can pinpoint, that will make it then easier to work out where you are. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera around. I've got my Holly reference photo. I'm going to move him across. Can you see this okay? Let me know. I've got a grey shadow at the bottom of my screen where the comments come up, so let me know if that's clear for you. Turn my computer around so I can read your comments. Oh yes, I can see it on my computer now. Hopefully we can see everything. Right. The branch is actually a completely different tree, obviously, because we have merged two reference photos. So if you had an eagle eye, you probably spotted that the branch really does not match the holly. It's not a holly branch at all. But I feel like when you're an artist, you can kind of get away with doing whatever it is you feel like doing. So I've kind of tried to make it merge in. Oh, they're all nice and clear. Perfect, fantastic. Thanks, Nicola. Thanks, Heather. Nice and clear. Good morning. Oh, good morning from sunny Kent. After watching your videos, me and my husband now. Yay! How exciting! Oh, spreading the coloured pencil joy. Brilliant. So we're going to start with the berries. And I tried to make this as simple as possible because I know that in the past I have complicated things so much that it becomes less and less enjoyable. So I think if we can keep things simple, then it's a good starting point. If you want to then expand on that, then brilliant. But for me, what I've done is gone simple, expanded, overwhelmed myself, and then come back to the simple. So sometimes you do need to take that journey, you know, for yourself to just kind of work it out. But actually, when I say complicated, I've added lots of different colours. I've looked and tried to work out exactly which colours there are. Ended up using about 10 different reds, and you know, wasn't happy with the result. It just looked a bit muddy and a bit messy. So what I thought I'd do is with the berries, I would just use 2 reds, that's it. And 2 that are in the same kind of colour family. So the cadmium, I used the light cadmium red and the middle cadmium red. And I thought that they were absolutely enough to be able to get the effects that we need. There are so many different reds in the polychromos, but I just think that that makes it muddy. So what I did was, looking at the berries, I'm going to choose one. Which one should we go for? Obviously, this doesn't match up to the robin. So, and I've not put all of the berries in either. You can put in as many as you like. Just trying to work out which ones are which. Doesn't really matter either, but just which one is the easiest to... Would you have some tips on the branch? Find it a bit tricky. If I've got enough time, Nisha, I will try and do a little bit on the branch, definitely. There's just no way I could finish this drawing in this workshop, but I have recorded the whole thing, so this finished drawing, and that is in the membership. So if you did want a more of a step-by-step guide, real time, then it's all in the membership if you did want to join. if that was something that you were interested in, then that robin is in there for you. So let's start with, I think we're going to start with this one. What I tend to do when I'm working across, generally I'll work down from top to bottom and from left to right, and the reason for that is I'm right-handed and I don't want to smudge my robin, so I'm going to put a piece of paper over the top of my robin, and then I'm not going to smudge him, although it's still quite light. There's not any brown in it really, so there's not much to smudge. So what I'm going to do is look at the berry that I've chosen, which is this one, and just looking to see what the lightest colour is. And some people might think or see a little bit of white at the top, which I think there is in the top edge there, but most of the shine, most of the highlight is kind of a light grey. And a little trick for shine is that light grey, as in this cold grey one that I'm using, is a perfect colour for the shine. So I'm going to add this cold grey one, side of my pencil again, small circles, and adding a base layer all the way over. So this is the lightest colour that I can see. And then I am going to leave that little top part out and then carry on around here. With the flash of or the light on my camera, it's really reflecting, so I can't see. I have to kind of tip my head to the side. It is showing up on camera, I think, but it's a little bit tricky. So I'm going to put a few layers in. I'm not pressing any harder. I'm using a really light hand because you don't want to flatten the tooth of the paper. You want the ability to add more layers. So the more layers we add, the more depth we're going to get. So if you feel that your drawings are a little bit flat, then it probably means you need to add a few more layers in just to make it pop out a bit. Right, so that's the cold grey. And then I'm going to go in with the light cadmium red. And I'm actually going to add this to most of the berry. So I've sharpened my pencils. I probably shouldn't have, but I thought I'd prepare myself. So now I'm adding this to the areas where I can see the mid-tone reds and also the darker tones. So I'm avoiding the shine and just adding it to the areas that I can see this colour or darker. There's a shine around the little, whatever that is. What would you call that bit? Little bottom part of the berry. It's not the bit that attaches, is it? It's not like the stalk. Don't know what you would call that. Let me know if you know the name of that. And I'm going to come round the side. Camera's really reflecting. Just being a bit mindful of the shape that I've drawn out, which is a bit wonky. That's okay, you can always change it. So I'm adding it around here, being a bit careful about where I put it. And then adding it in here. And again, I'm going to build up through the layers. I'm not going to press any harder. I'm just going to go over the top a few times. So we're going to leave that top section out. And then just using small circles all over. Just missing out, there's a shine there, and we're not going to leave it, there's grey obviously underneath, but can you see that when we add the red, the grey tends to almost disappear a little bit. Just checking comments. So carrying on, we're going to come round here just a tad, and there's a little trick that we can use with our cold grey that I'm going to do a little bit later. So adding a little bit to the top, just mapping out. Don't worry if it's a bit messy at this stage. It probably will be, because what we're aiming to do is get it to a kind of glassy shine, in which case we need to get rid of the graininess. And to do that, we need to build up the colour. So adding a little bit more, looking to see where the darkest parts are. You don't have to be too specific because actually it's such a small little berry. You could spend ages on it, couldn't you? And then you realise you've got loads to do and it can be a little bit intimidating. So just adding that cadmium red all over. I'm going to go in with my middle cadmium red now and start to go into where the real darkest parts are. So there's a little bit around here. We can also tidy up. It's quite nice when it's sharp, I suppose, because we can tidy up the edges. There's a dark patch in here. And just looking at the shapes again that they create, it's almost like a weird squashed square or diamond shape. So I'm going to put that little shape in so we can see. Now we know that these reds are going to work well together because they're both cadmium red, just different depths of colour, adding red to the bottom. And then this is a really good time to look at your reference photo and possibly look at it twice and then draw once, because what you'll find is that sometimes the shadows and the highlights aren't where you think they are. You would imagine maybe that the whole of this bottom part would be dark and then you just have a shine at the top. But actually we've got reflection on the bottom. We've got a little bit of a reflection here where this berry comes off. So it's amazing how much more we see and how it doesn't always add up to what we imagine in our heads. So I'm adding this middle cadmium red just to the darkest parts. And then we can go back in with the light cadmium red just to kind of fill in the gaps and add the mid-tones again. So you can see now I've added the darker red, that the light red is starting to become really, really... Oh, good morning, Lillian. Oh, no worries. No worries at all. Hope you're well, Lillian. Just adding it around here. There's a little bit of a line in there, so crispening up the edges. I'm now going to think about that little end part, whatever it's called, and I'm going to draw that in with the just checking the comments so you can't see me, with the dark sepia. Where have I put it? Here. So just mapping that in a little bit like we did with the yellow. I'm just going to sharpen it. I can find my sharpener. The only thing about these little ones is that they hide. So you've got to be careful with that one that you don't cut your finger because the blade is a little bit exposed, but I do like it. It's one of the best. So with this little centre part, I'm going to add this in like we did with the yellow parts on the wing, and then you know where that is. You're not going to forget about it, and it kind of adds a little bit of context. It makes it look a little bit more like a berry. I'm using the dark sepia, and then I'm going to go in with the Naples ochre and just add a touch of yellow. I'm not going to worry about all of the different colours that go on in that section. It's way too small to even worry about, I think. So don't be too worried about that. Going back in with the light cadmium red, and I'm going to start to fill in the mid-tones. So even on this darkest part next to the diamond, there is some medium red coming around. Now we've got that little area in, we can darken up. So we're starting to build up the layers now. Just thinking about that little highlight there that I talked about, that reflection. So leaving that out. And then we can start to add a little bit of red into the highlighted part. Because the highlights, if we leave them a bit bigger to begin with, then we've got a little bit of scope to make them smaller. If you start with them too small, you'll probably find that you'll fill them in really easily. And then, you know, you can't really go back again. So just adding that little bit of red to the edge, tidying everything up. And then what I tend to do with the cold grey, that little trick I talked about, is you can glaze over the top of the red that we've added, and you end up picking up a little bit of pigment on the end of your pencil, and you can push some of that red into the shine, into the grey. So just a little bit, but it just really adds to the realism in a way, because it pushes the pigment without you having to put any red in that shine at all, because sometimes it can be a little bit too much. So by picking some of the red up and glazing over the top, we're smoothing the berry, which is what we want. We don't want it to look grainy in any way, because it just wouldn't look very, very real at all. So still using a light hand and going over the edges, pushing some of that pigment into the shine. I'm going to add a little bit of grey around here, pushing some of that pigment and smoothing everything a little bit more. And now we can build up the colours. So going back in with the middle cadmium red. I'm just going to turn the camera off a second, because I know it's gone a bit darker, but it's reflecting and I can't actually see what I'm doing. So I hope that's okay. I'll turn it back on in a second. I hope you can still see. So the middle cadmium red, that is so much easier. I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm adding a little bit more of that, building up, coming down here. So it's not just a stripe, it's quite a lot of different colours, adding some to the middle. And then coming around to this bottom section, there's quite a lot of darkness there, and it actually goes up into the little endy part. Up round here, still building it up. These are really, I've got to say, I enjoyed them a lot. I thought I was going to get bored, but I didn't. I just kept looking at the shapes that were created within the berry, and I didn't want to rush it at all. It was really enjoyable. I'm going to put a little bit of that middle cadmium red over the top of the light cadmium red, just because it's not just one or the other. There tends to be quite a few different colours within. And then tidying up some of the edges, coming down here a little bit more, coming up into that little section there. So I'm adding more and more layers, and then I'm going to blend and put the mid-tones in, which tends to tie everything together. So just looking where to see your brightest highlights are, that's at the top. So I'm going to add some of this light cadmium red to the rest, making sure that it is really obvious to see where that shine is. And I think I'm going to have to put the berry in behind at the top, because I want to show you how to make them look like they're 3D and popping out from each other. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky just with one. You almost need two together. So starting to build it up a little bit, I'm going to put the pencil actually, so using a sharp pencil, I'm just drawing around that edge at the top, because it kind of leads into another one. So putting that in. And then I'm going to do that trick again with the cold grey. I'm going to spread some of that pigment into the shine, especially at the edge. And it just smooths everything out. Same at the bottom. Can add a little bit of the grey there. And then we might need to build up again with the darks. So it's layers and layers, isn't it? Darkening up this section a little bit. That weird diamond shape. And coming into the final layers now, you can see it's starting to darken up. And coming around into the top, just adding the odd little line here. Coming down. So I'm trying to make sure that the edges are relatively tidy, otherwise they can look quite grainy. So this is good practice when you're doing things like eyes, to get that glassy look. Just adding a little bit of that middle cadmium red into that shine into the edge. And then going back in with the light. just to fill in all kind of the mid-tones, just fill everything in and make sure that there's no graininess left. Oh, pressing a little bit harder now, and you can see I've broken my nib. So coming down into here as well. Just softening that dark red, blowing away any fallout. And then I'm just going to darken up that little mid bit, just a tiny bit, and you can see the yellow has almost disappeared. So I'm going to add that back in, Naples yellow, the Naples ochre. So just adding that bit in. So I'm going to put the light back on. Kind of reflects a little bit. So hopefully you can see. What I'm going to do is add the one behind as well. And then I'm going to show you how to darken up next to it so that they kind of stand out and look a little bit more 3D. Are there any questions about the berries at the moment? Can you see it better with the light on or off? I think I'm going to have to turn it off again just to draw, and then I can put it back on again. So I'm going to go into the one behind and do exactly the same. And I'm going to add the cold grey one all over, thinking about where the shine is, which this time's at the top, and it's a funny little moon C shape. But I'm going to add the cold grey over most of it. Just that little top section I'm going to leave out. And actually I've drawn this berry a little bit smaller than it is. But that's okay, it doesn't really matter. I love how realistic it looks now. Yeah, exactly, Nicola. And I think I've used, last Christmas, I think I drew a berry in one of the draw-alongs that I did for Christmas. And I just tried to see how many reds I could put in, and it just looked really messy. So I think keeping it simple is a good option. Just going in with the light cadmium red just to map everything in. And just making sure I leave out that shine at the top. Just notice that even on the shine, you can see a little bit of the red. So it might be there might be a berry behind, or you might be able to just see the top of it. I really want to show you how to darken up without using a really dark red. Because sometimes if you bring in another red, like a scarlet or something, and you try and add that to the shadow, it's a completely different red. It might look a little bit blue, and then it knocks everything off balance, which isn't nice. It just doesn't work. So adding this little circle here. There's a little curved shine. And you'll find that your first berry will take you quite a long time, and then you'll get quicker and quicker. I only have warm grey. I don't know, I think, well, if you've only got warm grey, give it a go, Leslie. It might work if you use the warm grey one. It's such a light colour, and actually I can see some warm colours in the shine, so give it a go and see how it turns out. I think if you use the kind of same technique, but with the warm grey, then I can't see how it would be tons different. So I'm going in with the middle now, and I'm just darkening up the darkest parts, the little part here. This isn't the darkest we're going to go. We're going to bring in the dark sepia in a second, which is the way that I tend to glaze and darken everything, darkening this edge. So put that line in already, which is good. I knew there was a berry behind. I'm just adding a little bit of that red here. Coming up a tad. And then in this section, there's a little bit of more of a darker. Usually it's not all uniformed or kind of the same symmetrical amount of red. We need to add some more. So darkening up this bottom section. Trying not to do a straight line like I just did, because they usually aren't straight lines. Trying to keep the edges nice and crisp. Especially now you can see that shine. My lightest cool grey is 3. That might be a little bit too dark, Leslie. You can see the difference there. That's the cold grey 3. That's the cold grey 1. So that might knock out your shine completely. So if you've got a choice between the cold grey 3 and the warm grey 1, I would definitely go for the warm grey 1. Because you want it to stay light, you want it to be a shine. I mean, you don't have to invest in every single pencil, of course you don't, and there are so many on the market now, it can be completely overwhelming, but I do think that if you did buy the greys, if you want to draw animals in general, then the greys and the browns, you can't really go wrong. I do have a list somewhere of my most used colours, so I might put that in the group if somebody reminds me. Sometimes I say these things and forget I've said them. So if you will find that helpful for the most used polychromos, I think I've got a Pablo's and a luminance as well, then let me know. So I'm going to go back in with the light cadmium red and start to fill in the gaps. So here, it's definitely a weird bit that I've left out there, just adding that in. It needs to be a little bit crisper around that edge, but that's okay. And don't forget that these berries, although they're round, they're not perfectly symmetrical. Oh, it's just so therapeutic. I'm going to add that little knobbly bit. Emma didn't have a cold grey. Yeah, it's definitely one of the popular ones. Just going to add this little knobbly bit. I'm not going to completely just draw it because I don't want it to look like a semicircle on the end. I've just used a series of weird dashes which makes up that point. Does that make sense? Because if you just draw a semicircle, which is kind of what it is, it looks less realistic because it's so tiny and you're trying to draw in a tiny space. By just putting a few lines in, I think it makes it look a little bit more realistic. That might just be me being a little bit strange. Cold grey 1, or warm grey 1 in your case, Leslie, to pull up some of the pigment and spread it into the shine. It just pulls everything together. It gets rid of any graininess. There's a little bit of lightness there, bringing that shine. It makes it go pink, which is good. Sometimes we don't want that to happen. We don't want to pull our pigment into the next part because it might make it go muddy or whatever. But in this case, it's perfect. It's what we want it to do. Going back in with the middle and just darkening up this edge. I've left a weird gap there. So tidying up the edges. I think if you can take a little bit of time to tidy up, it makes a big difference. Just adding a little bit here. Darkening up down here. So trying to make that nice and dark just by going over it a few times. Darkening up that edge there. I just want to add a little bit more of the light at the top. Again, I'm just tidying up. I've got a graphite line here, which if I wasn't letting you see, I probably would have completely rubbed that out, but I don't want to completely get rid of the line so you can't see what I'm doing. So there's a weird grey line in there that I wouldn't have. So put the... Can you see okay? Do you need the light on? It changes colour completely, doesn't it? Let me know which is best. It's a lot brighter here today, so hopefully that's okay. So we've got the colours in, just those two reds, a cold grey, and that's it for the colours. But then for the shadow, I'm pulling in the dark sepia, which I generally use for a glaze when you're trying to add a shadow without losing the colour underneath. I think it's fine with that. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Leslie. That's really helping me be able to see what I'm doing. I just couldn't see. It was reflecting on the shine of everything. So a little trick with getting your shadows in. A lot of people talk about it's looking a bit flat. There isn't enough depth to it. And for realism, I've got to say, I've got that that PDF that I made up, that little free thing that I put in the... I'll do that again. I'll put it back in. I think it's my top 5 or something, or even top 10. I don't know if I've put 10. Tips to make your drawings look more realistic. And the main ones are adding shadow, so making sure that it's as dark as it needs to be. This isn't dark enough at all. It needs to go a lot darker, same with the head. And what I'll generally do at the end of any drawing is I'll go back in with my dark sepia and I'll glaze. So that's what I'm going to do now. This section, instead of going in with a really dark red, like I said, like a scarlet or something, I'm going to go over with my dark sepia and just glaze over the top. Very, very, very light hand. Either the dark sepia or the warm grey 6 work really well for this. And go into just the darkest parts, and that's generally where berries meet, I found. So you need to go over the dark red that we've put in with a very, very light hand, and then just start to darken up those shadow areas. You want it darker than you probably feel comfortable with. We certainly don't want to go in with a black because that will knock it back. But by adding this dark sepia, add a little bit this side as well, it gives it definite form. It pushes that berry back and it brings this one forward. A little bit to the edge as well. Very, very light hand and not using very much at all. Use a tad in there just to pull it together. Can you see how that's just pushed it back? A bit out of focus. That might be because it's focusing on my hand a little bit. It's a bit of a delay on my Facebook computer page. I'm going to do the same with this section here. Try and keep my hand out of the way. So going in, you don't lose that red that we've put in. You do if you press really hard. Don't do that, just very, very lightly. And it just adds to the shadow. You can do this with any colour. You can do it with really light colours as well. And it's something I always, always do. Adding a little bit of shadow under that. So at the end of every drawing, I generally go back in and with fresh eyes, walk away, come back after a day or after a cup of tea, and just go in and start to darken everything up a little bit. Can you see how that's made this one look like it's coming forward now? And you can imagine when you've got all of them in, like I have done here, they look like they're kind of going around the branch, and that's all to do with the fact that you're getting the lights and darks in the right place. You can see I've pressed a lot harder just by building up through the layers. Probably need to add a little bit more red, and I think the light cadmium red is a perfect colour for it, so a little bit of adjustment needed sometimes. Just going in, you can go back over the top of the dark sepia and just add a little bit more, especially if you've left some of the highlights looking a little bit too free of any pencil. You can just pull it all back in with this mid-tone. Just shortening that highlight a little bit and smoothing everything up. And there you go. I think it's fine with that. Oh no, I've already read that. Is it in focus now? It's looking like it is on my computer. I hope you can see. So, I've applied the same technique to the holly, and the holly takes an awful lot longer than the berries, definitely have to say. But I tried to keep it simple again by only using a few greens. I started to bring in some more and it started to go a little bit pear-shaped. So I've kept it to 2 main ones, which is the May green and the earth green yellowish. This one is definitely my favourite green in the polychromos, the earth green yellowish. It's very natural. A lot of greens are a little bit too bright. There's too much blue in them and they can look really, really strange. So with the holly, what I did was I first of all went in with the Naples ochre, and I started to work out, we're going to work on this leaf here, where these yellow parts are. And I map them in, like these landmarks in the body, using the same yellow, and that pulls the drawing together, keeps it cohesive. And through the main vein there. So that's a little bit more curved than I've got it on my initial sketch, so adding that in. There's some on the edges here, and there's a curve that kind of goes around there. So I'm going to add it to that. Need to probably put more yellow in than you think, because it will disappear, like we found with other things. That one, I don't know what that leaf's doing. It kind of comes over the top, so I'm just going to add a little bit here, and I'm going to rub out with my Tombow. I'll look further tomorrow. I just got a neat phone with a bad message. Oh, a new phone, maybe? Oh, I wish you all happy holidays. Oh, are you popping off, Lillian? Hopefully see you soon. I think we've got a Q&A coming up, which will be live in the group again. No Zoom. It will be in the group, so maybe we'll see you then. I hope so. Right, so just rubbing out the edges a little bit, and I'm going to just add some of the little spiky bits here. So it doesn't matter really, because this holly is not part of the robin drawing anyway. I've changed it as I've gone along. So it doesn't really matter which leaf you're drawing where, as long as the light kind of works. And there are some that are overlapping and some that aren't. So that's most of the yellow in. There's a little bit at the top. I'm just going to zoom out my reference photo, but that ducks behind the robin's head. So we can see a little bit of it coming down there, and then a little bit here, and then here. So putting that in, I think, is a good place to start, especially to get you started, because a lot of the time you look at it and think, I just don't know where to begin. I'm going to grab the May green, and I'm going to start to put this anywhere that I see this colour or darker. So a light hand, small circles again, coming next to the yellow and coming right up to it so that we almost incorporate it but not completely. And then the thing to watch out for is the shine on the edge of the spiky bits. So we want to leave those out, leave it bigger than you think, because we can always come back at the end and add a little bit more. So coming right down to the berries as well, we can kind of go over the top of them because it's not really going to show up. They're not going to suddenly go green. Right, coming up here. And then just watching where these spikes are and where the shadows are, where the highlights are. The shadows are kind of up here, and then we've got a big highlight here with not much colour going on, but if we leave it white we won't be able to see it, which is a little bit tricky, like when you're drawing white fur or something like that. How do you edge if you're working on white paper? And usually what I do is I'll add a touch of the colour that I'm using just to pull it in to the drawing so it doesn't just disappear into thin air. And coming down. And then just using those small circles again, you can see that there are some light areas on the leaf that are pretty much white. So I'm leaving those out and spacing them out, and you can see little shapes starting to form where the veins of the leaf is. Not pressing any harder, but just going over the same area a couple of times, and you can start to add little shadows in within this colour. A little one going across there, darkening up next to the main kind of vein of the leaf, and then coming up and round. Adding a little bit more here, so it's quite a strong colour, but still using little circles, not pressing too hard at all, and coming down, leaving little gaps here and there. So you see I'm just leaving certain sections out that are catching the light, and we're going to darken up with the other greens and then come back and fill the mid-tones in. So we can go down and just add little scribbly lines. We don't want straight lines necessarily because they are a little bit broken up. I'm not really pressing very hard, but what I'm doing is I'm using the tip of my pencil a little bit more now just to add these lines in. Going up the leaf, just a little bit of detail going on. Again, these little milestones, benchmarks, whatever you want to call them, these little areas that we can put in so that we know where we are, where we're going. If we walked away from this drawing, we could come back and it wouldn't be too difficult to work out what to do next. So still darkening up a little bit. So again, you can see why this takes so long to do. It's a slow process and it's just about building up through the layers, not going heavy-handed, taking your time. Just working out where this one is. I just want to darken up around here. There's like a little triangular section. It's a little bit darker. You can see it's starting to build up a little bit. I'm going to move over to the other side. And there's a funny highlight section. But down here is quite dark next to the berry. And then coming up next to that kind of vein up through the middle is quite dark. Still using a light hand, small circles. Can you see how the yellow's just really disappearing now? And that's generally what happens when you start to put colour next to it. It just disappears. So going over a few times if you want to darken it up, but not pressing really any harder, leaving that space for the highlight, and then coming back in at over here where it starts to become green again, because it's bleached out by the sun, so that's why it's white. It doesn't mean that there's white patches on it, it's just bleached. So we're just going to leave that free for now, and then we could use our little trick to pull a little bit of pigment in to add some green to the shine. Just watching your robin, if you add green over the top of him, that might look a little bit strange. So small circles again. Coming all the way up. How's everyone getting on? Is anyone drawing along with me today? Or are you watching and going to come back to it a little bit later on? So just adding that green. So there's a triangular section here. Again, look at the shapes, look at what's being formed in the leaf. Don't try and draw a leaf because you'll end up with something else. Don't know what. I always tend to find it, if I really try and engage my brain and think, oh, I'm drawing a holly leaf, it always goes wrong. So if I draw these shapes that I see, then it tends to emerge like magic. So darkening up there a little. You're drawing along, Karen. Oh, you're drawing as well. Oh, brilliant. Wow, there's a few people drawing. Karina's drawing. Brilliant. I'm just going to watch my comments again if there's any other questions. Let me know if you have any questions about what we're doing so far. This section is quite yellowy, but because this leaf, this colour that I've got, this May green, is quite light, I'm just going to add a little bit here as well. Especially watching the grey area on the robin's head, because we don't want him to have a green head. That will look odd. Leaving a little gap. Making sure we've got enough room for the green, not the green, the yellow. And then in this section here, there's quite a lot of areas that are a bit darker. So just going to map those in, and that comes down to that little highlight. And then there's green next to it. So the darkest part is really by this vein. So adding a little bit more, just going over a couple more times, coming down here, darkening up next to it, all the way up, which we've kind of left out. Look at how the yellow's really just fading. I'm naughty knitting and watching that. That sounds relaxing. Good for you, Anna. Haven't got a May green, so using leaf green. Oh, let me see. If you haven't got a May green, have you got an earth green yellowish? Because that's probably the best. I think I started with the leaf green and it was quite bright. There's the leaf green and there's the May green. So you can see it's quite a lot brighter. So they might look a little bit brighter. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think that's probably the closest. I think you're right. Let me just check. Yeah, it's better than the grass green. Is that the grass green? Yeah, the grass green is just a bit too bright. And then most of the other greens are too blue, I would say. So I think leaf green's your best bet. I'm going to go in with the earth green yellowish now. So it's the next one. Yes, I've got the other one. Brilliant. I think the leaf green might make it nice and bright. That's okay. And then this one is quite a good darkening colour. So we're starting to go in with the earth green yellowish now. And I'm just looking to see where the darkest parts are. So they tend to be up these little veins. I'm going to put every single one in because I think we could be here forever. So I'm just going to add little ones, scribbly lines, little circles. Very light hand, not going in very heavy at all. And then coming up into that next one. Just adding a little bit of shadow next to it. And you're probably going to find that the May green that we used is going to become a lot lighter now and almost disappear. So then we need to add our midtones back in. Adding up to this little bit. So coming up and there's quite a dark part there. And then next to it. So I'm not adding it all over, I'm just working out where the shadows are. And I want to create a little bit of texture to the leaf, even if you can't see all of the details in the veins. I just think adding a little bit of texture is quite a good thing. So to do that, you need to add some shadows in here and there. Usually there's a little bit of a shadow as it comes to a point. This part here is a little bit darker, definitely up by the mid part, so that curves round. So adding some darkness here before it disappears into the bleached out sun. And then coming down to the other side. Adding some of this earth green yellowish to the bottom, all around the berry. And then up through the centre, next to that yellow. Making sure it's not too straight, you don't want really straight lines. That's going to show up. And then we're looking to see where the shadows were. So we put the May green in. And then I'm just going to create a little bit more shadow where I've put that in. So I've marked it in. But I've not added too much colour. So little scribbly lines, usually a darker line next to a highlight. And then we can add a little bit of texture in here. I've made the highlights way too big, which is good. I don't want to completely cover them up. We can always spread some pencil into them with the cold grey. And then adding a little bit to here, making sure that this section stands out. I don't want that to be flat, I want it to be curved. Another thing about realism is noticing all of the imperfections. So if you're drawing fur, or anything in nature really, try not to have it looking too groomed or too perfect. It doesn't really fall in straight lines. Normally we have these little flyaways, we have these little imperfections on leaves, and all of these things add up to making it look much more realistic. So I'm going to add a little bit more down here, Just looking to see where the shadows are. I'm not just going over the whole thing in one colour, which would be tempting to do. I'm just using little scribbly lines, little circles, and breaking it up so that it's not just all symmetrical and one colour. Little bits that come off that main vein. I'm going to add a little bit up here. So darkening up next to the yellow. Again, constantly looking at my reference photo. Looking at that a lot more than I'm looking at my drawing. This section up here is pretty light. There's a little shadow there. I'm just going to go back in and see if I can darken up a little bit more before we bring in the darker colours. See how far you can take these colours, because if we can stay with the same colours and just adding a few more layers of it, it just keeps it simple and it stops us reaching for every single green in our kit, and then it ends up a little bit muddy. So darkening up next to this, just next to the yellow. Every time I look at my reference photo, I notice a little bit more. Right, so we're starting to, oh my, I can't believe I'm actually drawing. Fantastic, Julie. It feels so strange to be drawing or holding pencils then again. Oh yeah, after your finger. Just be careful. Don't hurt yourself, will you, Julie? I'm going to go back in with the cold grey, and I'm just going to, well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Julie. That's really, really great. I bet you've missed it, haven't you? So using the cold grey, I'm going to pick up some of the green pigment that we've put down, and I'm going to spread it into the shine. This softens the pencil strokes, and it also gets rid of the graininess. Although we want texture on this leaf, we certainly don't. What have I done there? I've just left it out. What's going on there? That needs more green, so I'm going to add some grey. Adding some grey even to the darkest parts. Definitely going to add cold grey to that light part. I don't want to leave it white because we won't be able to see it. So I think that's going to help. I'm going to add a little bit of green as well. So picking up this pigment and spreading it around. That's what we want to do. And then we're going to add some more mid-tone. So again, tidying up edges. Adding that grey into the shine. Not pressing very hard, I'm just going over and softening everything up and spreading everything out. Brilliant. Adding a bit of that May green into this weird section that I've just completely ignored. So putting that in. I think I was a bit worried about greening up my robin, but we definitely need to add that in. So, May green again. Just had a spam phone call. Let them listen in. I bet they thought, what on earth? What are you talking about? I always do that. Sometimes I just put the phone on the side and let them carry on. Aren't they terrible? So using this May green again to go in and add the mid-tones, so bringing the shadows and the highlights together. So I'm using a very light hand and just glazing over the top to pull the bits in, and then we can always darken again. But these leaves close to the robin are actually pretty light. They aren't the usual colour that you would imagine holly to be. So I think we can get away with leaving them quite light. Don't have to worry too much. Just filling that section in, just watching his head. Same here, I'm going to leave that blank again like I did the other section. We need to add a little bit more of this mid-tone, this lighter colour, into the shine here. Just pulling it together a little bit. I always leave it a lot bigger to begin with, and then we've got scope to change it. If you go too dark too soon, too much too soon. It's much more difficult. And coming up this side again, darkening up again. I'm going to go back in with the earth green. Well done, Leslie, definitely. There's a lot of that at the moment, isn't there? So just darkening up again. Making sure we're going round our berry. Coming up here. Adding these little lines in. It's quite a defined line there. Very subtle lines though, aren't there? They're not huge. So just blowing away any fallout. So just being a bit careful that you don't go too heavy and draw these huge lines in. They're quite subtle and they're quite bleached out. Adding that darker part as well. Just making that a little bit bigger. At the moment it just looks a bit strange. But because we haven't gone in too dark too soon, we've got that ability to close the gap a little bit. Darkening up here. Definitely a dark line around there. I want to add a little bit more yellow. That seems to have disappeared. We need to add more, so adding a little bit here where the fold is. And closing up these gaps as well. I'll add a little bit of green to this grey, just a hint. And coming down here. I just want to pull that in. I want to go back in with the May green and add another layer, because even the lightest parts on the actual body of the leaf are green, they're not white. We want that shine to show up at the top. Hint of green coming down here, darkening up that bit. And even this part is a little bit green. Okay, I'm going to go back in with my Naples ochre. I just want to darken up the yellow a little bit and to tidy it up. So it's not, again, all completely one colour. There are areas that are a little bit darker, but it's definitely a nice bright yellow. So just going up the edges a little bit darker and then filling in the middle with a little bit of a lighter colour. Same with this edge. And this coming up here. And then adding the yellow at the top. I'm going to go in with my I'm going with the Bista just for the tips. Just going to add a little bit of brown. Now some of them don't really have a lot on it, but I think it just adds a little bit to it. And you can add a little bit of brown to outline if you need to, if there's more colour. I'm going to add the brown to the top, and then I'm going to go in with the dark sepia. And then just add it to the very edge of some of them where the spike is. So just tidying up the edges a little bit. I'm now going to go in with the olive green yellowish, and again that kind of ties in with the other colours. So for this part you might think that that's quite a bluey green, and it is. And first of all I went in with a pine green and I regretted it immediately. It just went too bluey. So I wanted to keep things simple and to keep in the same kind of family of colours and just use the one that made more sense on rather than your kind of first glance. Just wanted it to be a lot more simple. So I'm just going to use this very lightly and darken up some of the areas. There are little veins that are a bit darker that I haven't put in yet. There's an area there that's a little bit darker, and we are going to go back over with the earth green yellowish to balance it back out again. Coming down here into that shadow, down here at the bottom where it's quite shadowed. Of course you could bring in different colours from different pencil sets if you want to. But again, I just wanted to try and keep things simple, to not overwhelm, and to just use the polychromos, which are the ones that most people know about. Because if I start bringing in all these other pencils, people feel that they need to buy them all, and you really, really, really don't. You can make do with a really good set of pencils. When I say good set, I mean the quality, I think, is important. I think you can start with cheaper pencils, definitely, but I don't think it will be long until you get a little bit frustrated with them, because they just don't blend as easily. They make your job a little bit more difficult. So I'm just going into the shadows. And I started with a set of 36 polychromos, and that lasted me a long time. I didn't need to go in and add any more colours for ages. I did quite a few drawings on that and quite a few commissions as well. So you really don't need them all. Just breaking up that edge a little bit, but that is pretty dark up there. And again, don't forget, we can go in with our dark sepia and darken everything up. Just adding that little vein part in there. Little parts here that are darker. And again, you can go in as dark as you want. With your first leaf, I would say less to begin with. And then when you start adding in your other ones, you can go back and just adjust it a little bit, because you might find that it needs to go darker. But it's much harder to lift it up. It's like adding salt to something. You can't really take it away as easily. So it's best to just add more at the end, as and when you need it. As in when you can kind of see that you need to deepen the shadows a little bit. Going next to the vein and darkening that up. And then I want to go in with my May green just to soften all of that and pull it all in together. So softening the pencil strokes, if that's looking a little bit grainy. Glazing over the top, so circles. A little highlight there, just want to leave out. This section is all green, so putting that in. Darkening up the middle sections in here. We might go in with the earth green yellowish. Darkening up here. But like I said, probably best not to go too dark yet until you've got the rest of your drawing in. Just adding this green. There are some lighter parts, but smoothing everything out. All of those olive green yellowish sections, we're just tying those in. And then down here, just want to pull a little bit of green in at the bottom. A little bit over the highlighted areas. And then smoothing everything out. I just blew my phone, not my paper. That's not helpful. How's that looking? We're getting a bit of a shine on it, and I think as we move on, I probably would go quite a lot darker in the veins, but I'm leaving it relatively light. You're crying, Julie, crying tears. Oh, I'm so glad. Help me to get my motivation back. My absolute pleasure. I just know how amazing you can feel when you do this wonderful hobby, and I know how much you love it, Julie. So I am so happy for you that you are, she's really suffered with her finger. It's terrible. So I'm so glad you have come back to it and you are feeling motivated. I feel like my job is done. Amazing. So how are you feeling about your berries and your holly? Do you feel like you can carry on. Even looking at the ones that I've done, I probably would add some more. I would carry on and darken them up a little bit. Isn't it amazing to see the difference? I can side by side. The difference already. Just by seeing something, looking at it again, objectively, a second time round, every time I look at a drawing, I think, what could I have improved on? And definitely, there are a few areas that I would improve on this one, and a few extra things that I've seen. But I think overall, I was really quite pleased with how it turned out. I just think it's a nice composition, a sweet little robin. Time is it? Don't think we're going to have time for the branch. What I would say, I'm going to have to go and find my other reference photo. With the branch, let me just tip my phone. One of the most important things with the branch is to look again at your highlights and your shadows. So just get my dark sepia. Underneath here is really dark. So generally, as a rule, you find that with anything that's round, you have a highlight all the way down the middle. You have a section that is really dark because the sun's not reaching it, it's curving under. And then you have a slightly darker, but not as dark as the bottom area on the top. And it tended to get lighter as we came in because the robin wasn't shadowing. So you can see here I've left a shine in the centre. I've darkened the bottom and I've darkened the top, but not as much as the bottom, only where the robin is. And then you create a round form. I've added the earth green yellowish as well into some mossy areas because it's just a perfect green. And I've gone in really lightly with warm greys, cold greys, the bister, the nugget. I've added little knots and things. I've added shadows where the robin's feet are. And don't forget, in the reference photo, there's like a leaf covering it. So a little bit of artistic license here. And then I really darkened all in between where the berries are to make those stand out completely. Does that make sense? So as I said, if you do want to finish your robin, I hope that I've given you all of the techniques that you need to be able to finish him. We've done this feather here, which carries on down here. We've done the wings, which we just need to go a little bit darker. You can see I've gone a lot darker here, and they just pop a little bit more. These feathers are very similar to these, so we can go in with that, but with the browns and the greys, which is the same colour as up here. Darken the tail, and then we've done a berry, and you can carry on with your holly. If you did want more of a step-by-step, I'm just going to turn the camera around. If you did want more of a step-by-step, as I said, it is available in the membership if you wanted to join. So at the moment, the Joy of Drawing membership is brand new. So what I've done is I've put this tutorial in. It's 6 hours, over 6 hours, step by step, completely going through everything with you from start to finish, not leaving anything out. Unfortunately, on these workshops, I just can't do everything. As I said, it would be like a 10-hour workshop. But going through everything, the only thing I edit out is if I drop a pencil, if I'm procrastinating and thinking, and all of the sharpening. So you can obviously pause the video and stop it and then play it back as many times as you like. I've also added a this hedgehog, a little curled up hedgehog tutorial in there, and this is on drafting film. So I don't know if you've ever used that. You can see, obviously, front and back. It's amazing. It's just a completely different surface to draw on. So I've got that full tutorial in there as well. I can't remember how many hours that is. That could be 8 maybe. So that's in the tutorial in the membership at the moment as well. And I go into the slice tool in a lot more detail with that because, oh my goodness, does the slice tool work so brilliantly on drafting film. We also use pastel mat sometimes, watercolour pencils, pastel pencils, beautiful coloured pencils, and also graphite. So because this membership is brand new, I have put the hedgehog in as your starter one for this month, and then I've put the robin in as a bonus to get you through the Christmas period. You might be quite a speedy drawer, so that's quite a lot of hours to put into projects. And then every month I'm going to be adding a new tutorial, but I'm going to be drip feeding it in. So I'm going to be adding an hour or so every week. It's probably going to be a Thursday, because that's what I do in my other membership, and so that you can kind of keep your creative process going, which is the whole point of this, I think. I remember when I stopped drawing, and I remember when it was a period of time when I was doing a completely different job, office work, and I had my children, and they were really young, and obviously your time is just not your own anymore. But there was just something missing. There was something in me. I'd always drawn before. As a child, I was always drawing, copying the Disney videos. That's what I kind of started with. And I just felt like there was something missing. And I didn't know what it was, but it was that creative outlet. I needed it in my life. And although life was so busy, I wanted something that made me slow down a little bit more and to take my time and to enjoy something that was kind of just a project just for me, that I could lose myself in. It wasn't for any other reason. It might sound selfish, but I think we need to look after ourselves. And after I'd done a little bit, it was only 10 minutes, you know, if it was 10 minutes at the end of the day or when the baby was asleep, I felt like I just had a little bit of a refresh in the day. And I know my husband used to say, you need to go and draw, don't you? You just go and do it. Just go and draw, get it out of your system. Even if it was 10, 20 minutes, it really made a difference. So I want to encourage you all to have regular creative practice in your life. And by regular, it kind of means weekly. It kind of means keeping it up. If not daily, if you can draw daily, amazing. Even, you know, anything that you practice in, whether it's, you know, exercise or, you know, other crafts or whatever, the benefits you get from it are for doing it more. So the more you do it, the more benefits you're going to get. So by adding tutorials weekly, I'm encouraging people to hopefully not get overwhelmed and think, I don't even know where to start. I'm dripping it in. And that seems to be working really well in the Mindful Artist membership that's been running for a year now. I can't believe it. It's been running a year. I look back to before I did this and I just don't know where I'd be if I wasn't doing that. So as the Joy of Drawing membership is new, there isn't a library there of old videos yet, although you do have those 2 great ones to start you off, but it will grow with time. We're also going to do a Q&A every month, and we've got our own little private Facebook group where we can, you know, get to know each other and chat a little bit. But the Mindful Artist membership, if you wanted a library of tutorials, so bearing in mind it's a year old now, so there is a lot of tutorials in there for you to choose from. We've got a hedgehogging graphite, we've got a fox, what else have we got? Birds, a little rabbit, a parrot, a chaffinch, I think. So it's mainly wildlife. We've got some botanicals, we've got a little freesia did in watercolour pencils, a poppy. I think I'm going to be doing more botanicals with my artwork, or maybe more backgrounds. You know, I quite like the idea of having a full composition. This is almost like a step in that direction, isn't it? Having some context within your drawing. Last Christmas I just did a robin on a log, and this is just kind of adding to it. So if you want a library of tutorials, then the Mindful Artist is there for you. There's a lot more to choose from because it's been open for a year, and we also have the hypnotherapy and the mindset work. So if you're looking for more interaction as a group, as a community, as a tribe, we had an art clinic last night where people come and bring their work if they need any help with it, and we just have a chat and a catch up, which is just lovely. We've got a draw along coming up in not this weekend, the weekend after, and we have hypnotherapy as well. So if you do want to work on your mindset and create a more positive kind of outlook, and if you're dealing with any negative thoughts or self-esteem or confidence issues, then the Mindful Artist is there for you. But if you just want to pare it down, just do the drawing tutorials, then the Joy of Drawing is the one for you. Of course, if it's not for you at the moment, or it's not the right time, then I hope I've given you a lot of information for you to really push your drawings forward. Try to cram in as many tips and techniques that I could think of that I've used and adapted over the years that I've drawing to kind of come round to this hopefully simpler, easier, more effective method of getting the results that you want. So making drawings look more realistic, enjoying it more, which is so important. I think we lose sight sometimes of the reason that we started it to begin with. The reason I started drawing is not necessarily to create masterpiece and to be the best artist out there, because it's just never going to happen. It's to see my work progress, because it does. That's just gonna happen. The more skills you learn, the more practice you have, and with a bit of guidance and tuition, that will be even faster. And just to enjoy it, just to really enjoy the process. I'm going to just come back to the comments and just see what you guys are saying, because I don't want to miss out. Let me see, Nisha. I've been drawing daily for over 3 years until a couple of months ago. That's when I couldn't make myself pick up a pencil, no apparent reason. You just kind of lost your, these sessions help get back on track. Fantastic, hopefully be able to go on. I'm sure you will. I hope that you have got your spark back, Nisha. My absolute pleasure. Hi Lisa, my big sis, hello. Nice to see you. Just an idea for those that cannot afford the monthly fee. How about doing some more one-offs like this for a smaller fee? The monthly membership for the Joy of Drawing is £10 a month, so it's quite a small fee, and you get an awful lot for that. I don't know if I could do it for any less than that. I think that's the kind of absolute minimum. And actually, if you join for a year, which a lot of people have, you get 2 months free. So it ends up working out at like £7.50 a month, which I think is really, really good value for money for what you get. So my absolute pleasure. My pleasure. The Mindful Artist is £24.99 a month, but again, if you join for a year or 6 months, it comes down. I think it ends up being about £15 a month if you join for a year. So again, massive value for money. I don't think I could do it. I couldn't do it for any less than that, I'm afraid. It would just be. Let me have a look. Idea. Oh, I've read that one already. I hope I have fabulous value. Oh, thank you, darling. It is, you know, I just think for what I put in, and the amount of tutorials that you get and the amount of support that you get, it is amazing value for money. I know that money is tight sometimes, but I don't think you can put a price on yourself. I don't think you can. I think it's just, yeah, it might not be for you right now, and that's absolutely fine. But how can you put a price on joy and feeling good and having that support and that community there as well? Highly recommend. Oh, thank you. Nicola's one of my lovely Mindful Artist members. I've been in the Mindful Art. Nicola was my first ever member. She joined when I was doing my graphite puppy draw along this time last year, exactly this time last year. So it's been so lovely to get to know Nicola. I've been there a year, progressed so much. So happy I joined. I've had a lovely community. Aren't we? They, I mean, they are just, I don't know where I'd be without them either. So I've learned so much from them all. They're so lovely, and it's just so nice to be able to be part of a community. It's just fantastic. I've learnt so much from. Think about what you spend on a meal out. Of course, yeah. I mean, if you think about a lunch, how much does a lunch cost nowadays? And it's gone in like 10 minutes, whereas this is a month's worth of information and joy of drawing for £9.99 or 7 something if you join for a year. Mindful Art is great value, and videos are so detailed. Sam gives. Helps you when you get stuck. Definitely, it's not just about kind of putting those videos in and then leaving you to it. I really want to keep you going, keep you motivating, keep you moving forward. it was amazing last night. Nicola, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. And she shared a screen and showed the robin that we drew last Christmas, which we did on a draw along again, and the robin that she's doing now. And although the robin last Christmas was beautiful and it had gorgeous detail in the feathers, the difference was just amazing. So in a year, always look back on what you've done. Don't compare yourself to everyone else in the group, because I just feel like that can make you feel a bit flat and a bit down. Comparison is a thief of joy. I think that was Roosevelt, was it, that said that? And it's so true. So compare yourself to you, see how far you've come, draw something that you drew 6 months ago, a year ago, and look at the difference. I do it quite regularly now because it really gives me a boost. I think, oh, I thought I was stuck. I thought I hadn't progressed at all. And now look at the difference. Takeaway coffees. How much is a takeaway coffee now? I actually don't know. £2.50. Again, gone in 10 minutes. I can send it to you to share around. Oh yeah, I love that, Nicola. Please do share it. Send it to me and I will share. My art class has stopped due to COVID. Then I found Sam. I've learnt so much more from her. Totally worth the money. Thank you so much, Karen. These lovely members. I'm so grateful for you too. That's the thing. I think COVID has changed everything. Membership could be ideal for Christmas. Very, very good idea, Jean. Very good idea. Don't want to miss any comments. They're all coming up now. So, blimey. So yes, if you are interested, if you have any questions, then please do message me and I can answer them for you. I'm probably going to be sharing a little bit more about the membership in the next week because the doors are open now and they will be closing on Friday. And actually, as the memberships evolve and progress, the price is only going to go up because you're going to have so much more content in there. So if you're on the fence about joining, join now because it will stay at that price for you for as long as you are in the membership. I wouldn't want you to miss out and then it goes up in a little bit because everything's going up. I teach Pilates as well. My rent's gone up. It's gone up twice since I started, which was only 3 months ago. So I keep costs as low as I can, obviously affordable, but of course life in general, it just goes up. And I do this as a business to be able to, you know, support my family and to be able to have that freedom of being able to take my kids to school and pick them up and you know, otherwise I'd be doing a 9 to 5. So this is my business. This is something that is my passion, my baby, but there is value in that definitely. And I think hopefully the members that are in the membership see the value in that and really enjoy it. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to get unstuck. My aim is definitely to help. I'm going to be posting some more tips. I've got loads of ideas for our group. If you have any friends that you think would benefit from the bigger group, the artist community, the free group, because I'm going to be posting a few more tips in there. I've got lots of questions and I think it'd be nice if I could make a little video explaining. I just want to move you all forward and help as much as I can. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions about the membership, either one, the Mindful Artist or the Joy of Drawing. I've really enjoyed today. I don't want to go. Can you see I'm rabbiting on? I don't want to leave you. If you want to carry on, then please do come and join the membership. And I really look forward to welcoming those that have joined. We've got some people joined already, which is very, very exciting. And you've now got just over a week to sign up to that. So don't leave it. As I said, it might be that the prices go up next time. Any other questions? Let me know. How are your robins doing? Please do post your robins in the group. I forgot to say about liking and loving this video because it does push it out to the rest of the group. Facebook only lets 1% or something see the video. So like and love, comment and put the hashtag Robin3 to be entered into the competition to win a month's free membership. If you've already joined, then I will refund you or give you the next month free or whatever. Don't worry, you won't miss out. So don't let that hold you back from joining. And then the second prize will be some goodies, my favourite paper, sharpener and Tombow or something. Tomorrow morning will be very flat. Yeah, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss you guys. Hopefully I'll be popping in a little bit more and to do lots and lots of tips, lots of ideas for the future, for the group. But yeah, if you do have any friends, any arty friends or any friends that you think need a really nice hobby, then do invite them into the big group so that they can be part of the bigger community. I just want to reach as many people as possible, and help as many people as possible. Really enjoyed these last 3 days. I hope you have too. And I really look forward to seeing you so soon. Lots of love to you, and bye for now. You take care. Bye.